So today we're going to be going through the Westfield East Bank Creative Futures Fund, looking at the application for the small grant scheme, which lets you apply for a grant of up to £5,000. During this session, we'll go through the actual application step by step, and you'll have the chance to ask any questions you might have when we open up to a Q&A at the end. In 2020, Foundation for Future London, with funding from Westfield Stratford City, created the Westfield East Bank Creative Futures Fund. Over 5 years, they aim to invest £10 million into local East London communities. The fund aims to support exceptional individuals, local organisations, and businesses in their drive to create jobs, learning, training, and educational programmes through entrepreneurship, enterprise, arts, culture, and innovation. In short, the fund aims to put funding, resources, and support straight into local people's hands. Year 3 has been designed with feedback and evaluation from Year 1 and 2 grantees to make sure that the process is as accessible, transparent as possible, and allows applicants to make informed decisions, follow simple applications processes, and gain additional support where they need it. This year, the small grant scheme has a pot of £100,000 and will award 20 to 22 small grants. With the small grant scheme, you can apply for up to £5,000. Online applications open on the 11th of July and close on the 16th of September. For all of the community grant schemes, at the heart of your project, you must be able to demonstrate a core commitment to one of the funding themes. Employment opportunities. Will your project provide employment opportunities for local people, including access to paid work experience, internships, access to apprenticeships, or gaining access to jobs? If you're offering paid roles, paid work experience, it's important to make sure that you're paying at least the London living wage. Learning opportunities. Will your project provide ladders of opportunity for local people, e.g., including lifelong learning opportunities, early learning, schools through to late career and post-retirement, and/or will your project offer bespoke career and higher education support, training, and secondment? Young people. Will your project have a young person-led approach with particular provision for local young people to access broader skills development opportunities, career workshops, and related learning and/or one-to-one coaching and mentoring? Now, under one-to-one coaching and mentoring, it doesn't have to be a licensed coach or a licensed mentor. You can build in peer-to-peer coaching and mentoring where young people are supporting each other to become role models in their community. Business and entrepreneur support. Will your project provide local people with the opportunity to have business and/entrepreneur support, including freelance business and entrepreneur setup, development, and training? Some projects and programs are going to be focused on supporting other projects, programs, and businesses. And so if this is you, make sure you're able to demonstrate that. The fund is all about creating inclusive and sustainable opportunity. Foundation for Future London are keen to back a range of activities and innovative ideas that drive their proposed outcomes, which we'll go on to in a minute. The Foundation is a strong advocate for the ability of creativity to enable levelling up opportunities and to be a strong contributor to the London economy. They're keen to fund project activities that have origins in arts, culture, heritage, business and startup. Collaboration is a really big part of this fund. Creative ideas, community, COVID-19 recovery, diversity and inclusion, creative, inclusive public realm and/or placemaking, education, intergenerational work, digital work. These are just the project activities. These will be what your participants are taking part in when they come to engage with you. Now, we mentioned the outcomes. The fund has defined specific outcomes that they'd like to see projects reach. For the small grant scheme, you must be able to demonstrate a minimum of 2 short to medium outcomes. So some of the short-term outcomes we've got here: participants gain technical/sector-specific and/or creative skills. Participants gain essential skills. Participants grow their network and awareness of local opportunities. Participants gain confidence in their potential and self-initiative. Participants are better equipped to process difficult emotions. Participants are equipped to act as an agent of change in their boroughs. Organisations and schools are exposed to creative approaches to well-being. The medium to long outcomes include increased employability of participants, increased capacity for innovation and entrepreneurship, increased diversity in the creative/entrepreneurial sector in the boroughs, more diverse audiences engaging with the cultural sector and benefiting from community assets and available services. Participants act as agents of change within the local community, and organizations and schools integrate creative approaches within their projects. These outcomes have to stem from the activities we spoke about on the slide before. Now, the importance of evidencing need and local engagement. We need to understand what the need is for your project, how it's been identified, and how local young people have been involved in the planning and development of the proposed activities. You should be able to demonstrate that you have considered community engagement and consultation. How have your beneficiaries been involved in shaping and steering your project? You should be able to demonstrate strong links and networks in the community to deliver the activities. Are you working with partners, volunteers? Who are they, and what is their role in your work? Have you considered longevity? Will your project provide longer-term opportunities for participants? These bullet points in orange on the slide are considered more favorable when the funders are looking to award funding, because they can see that you are a community-led project where beneficiaries have been involved in the co-design of your project and that it's sustainable and will continue long after the funding has ended. Now we're actually going to go through the application. So to apply to the fund, you'll need to make an account with the Foundation for Future London Flexi Grant platform. There's the link there. Once you're on the site, you need to click Available Grants and start your Small Grants Scheme application form. To continue working on your application through the portal, simply log in another time and access your draft through My Applications. Now, the form starts with an eligibility checklist, just to make sure that you are able to apply in the first place. They must check that you're over 18 and based, live, work, or study in one of the 4 boroughs: Hackney, Newham, Tower Hamlets, or Waltham Forest. Your project must take place in one of those 4 boroughs: Hackney, Newham, Tower Hamlets, or Waltham Forest. You must have a commitment to or working towards the London living wage where possible. By the time of project delivery, you must have relevant insurance, risk assessments, and a comprehensive safeguarding policy in place if you're working with children and young people under the age of 18 or vulnerable adults. Unless you're applying as an individual, you must confirm that you're a non-for-profit organisation that is formally constituted. For example, having a signed governing document in the group's name. Where relevant, you must confirm that your organisation's turnover is less than 200,000 if you're applying for a small grant, 1.5 million if you are applying for a medium grant. Priority will be given to grassroots organisations. Please note and be aware, further documentation such as government's documents, insurance, risk assessments, safeguarding policies, health and safety policies may be requested at later stages of submission, so please make sure you're ready to give these to the funder. Now, section 2 is quite easy. It's all about you and your organisation. They're going to ask for your name, email, phone number, who you are in relation to your organisation, the legal status of your organisation, turnover, full-time staff involved, and the year you were established. In section 2, they also ask about your aims and values. The fund would like to know, as the lead applicant, describe how this work fits with the aims and values of you and/or your organisation. We would also like to hear about your previous experience and commitment to diversity and inclusion. Note: the Foundation's assessors will be particularly interested to hear how you involve, support, and champion people with lived and learnt experience to inform the work you do or want to do through the planning, delivery, and evaluation of your work. This can be quite tricky to answer, so we've pulled together an example that you can base yours around, but obviously needs to be edited. The Chefs in Schools project, in partnership with George Green Sir John Cass Schools, aligns with our organisation's aims and values to change the food culture within the wider community. Both schools are in areas with high levels of deprivation and low engagement rates within hospitality and catering careers. At Chefs in Schools, we want food culture to be at the heart of our work within the education system, providing skills-based learning that leads to training and employment pathways for young people. Led, steered, and delivered by lived experience, local community experts, notable chefs, and qualified training providers, our vision involves striving for equal access to opportunities within creative hospitality and catering for all working-class marginalised communities. Chefs in Schools is a values-driven, inclusive charity that does not discriminate or recruit based on protected characteristics. Through recognition and celebration of another's differences, we make it as easy as possible for all children and young people to take part in our programs. When recruiting, our aim is to be as inclusive as possible and work with beneficiaries representative of our entire community. We know that East London communities are made up of many different races, as well as the disabled, traveller, LGBTQI+, and carers groups. Diversity and inclusion is embedded in our work, showing cultural awareness and sensitivity throughout. Now, when you read back at the question, you can see that we've broken it down into each thing they'd like to hear. We've told them how the project fits in with our aims and values. We've told them about our previous experience delivering our project, and we have told them about our commitment to diversity and inclusion. We've mentioned our lived and learnt experience leaders, and we've shown how they will be informing our work. Also in section 2, you'll be asked if your organisation or project team identify as diverse led based on the key people involved in the development and delivery of your project. This is also the chance to tell us about any help, support, or adjustments that you would like as part of your application. If English isn't your first language, or you need additional support to complete your application, please get in touch at grants@future.london. Section 3 is all about your project. They're going to ask you for the title of your project, and you've got to make sure this is something creative and catchy. This is the Creative Futures Fund. There's a big focus on creativity and innovation. Where will your project take place? Remember, it's got to be in one of the 4 boroughs: Waltham Forest, Hackney, Newham, or Tower Hamlets. Type of grant, this is the small grant scheme session, so we'll be applying for a small grant. Now, you'll also be asked to provide a short summary of your project, no more than 30 words. We'll go into this in a bit more detail on the next slide. You'll also need to give your project start and end date and tell the fund how much funding you need. You can apply for up to £5,000 as a small grant. Now, with your project summary, the short summary provides the grant assessor with their first impression of your project. To remind themselves of your proposal, they may glance at your summary when making their final recommendations. It may also serve as the last impression of your project. If your application is successful, your summary might be used by the funder for advertising or publicity purposes. It should explain the key elements of your project. You should break down the general purpose, specific goals, what you'll achieve, the methods you'll use to achieve them, and the significance, contribution, or outcome of your project. So with our example here, we've said our general purpose: over 12 months, 50 working class elders from the Elders Rock Club. Specific goals: will take part in weekly digital photography workshops. To achieve what? To create the Last Forever exhibition. Methods: showcasing the ever-changing East End through their lives and lived experiences. Significance: leaving a legacy for future generations. This has got to be less than 30 words, and so it's really important that you get it short and you get it really concise. Also in section 3, they ask you for the issue being addressed. What is the issue your project is addressing, and why is change needed? This is a chance for you to tell the fund about the issue you are or want to address, why the project is needed, why the project is important to you, why you are well placed to address it, and how your community has been designed in developing it. The example answer here: the issue we are addressing is elder isolation across our working class East End communities and the lack of creative intergenerational opportunities for this marginalised group. So you can see that straight away in the first sentence, we've answered their question. What is the issue your project is addressing, and why is change needed? We are also addressing COVID-19 recovery. Our beneficiaries are from majority Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, the groups most disproportionately affected by COVID, which has affected their health and well-being, including mental health and emotional well-being. Many of our beneficiaries are without family support. This intergenerational creative digital project will see 10 elders and 10 young people come together, using digital cameras and software to reflect on their long, full lives and their learned and lived life experiences, enabling them to leave a photographic legacy for younger generations. Young people have told us that they want to learn more about their forefathers' cultures and identities. When planning this project, they said it was important for them to use their digital skills to celebrate local community working class history. The elders involved in this project will be leading on cultural storytelling. The young people will peer coach the elders with digital skills. This project is important because we recognize the need to preserve the culture across our communities. Our organisation is best placed to run this project. We are known and trusted in the community, with a diverse group of volunteers from all ages and backgrounds who will be on hand to support and champion this one-of-a-kind intergenerational project. You can see in our example answer here how we've broken down the issue the project is addressing, why change is needed, why the project is important to us, what makes us well placed to address it, and how the community has been involved in shaping and developing the project. Now there's a project overview. This has a word count of 1,500 words, so this is your chance to really talk about your project and what you want to deliver. The fund wants to know how your project meets the Westfield East Bank Creative Futures Fund priorities and outcomes, who will be involved in the planning and running of your project, an explanation of your project activity, who will benefit, and the positive change or impact it will bring around. So what participants will see or feel during the course of your project and into the future. So we've made some pointers just to help you structure this. I'd say you start with a short paragraph about the background of your organisation. Who are you? When did you start? What do you do? Tell us about the makeup of your board. Are you beneficiary-led? Do you have a youth or steering group that helps you make decisions? Then go on to talk about this specific project and what you want to deliver under the Westfield East Bank Creative Futures Fund. What are the activities? What will you do? When? Where? How often? Are partners involved in your delivery? How does the activity you want to run meet the Westfield East Bank outcomes? Make sure to always refer back to the funder's outcomes and themes on slides 5, 6, and 7. From there, you want to talk about your beneficiaries. Who are they? What backgrounds do they come from? What age group are they in? What barriers do they face? Why is this project for them in particular? How have you involved them in the design of this project in particular? From there, we go into who will be involved in the planning and running of your project. Do you have any partners or partnerships in place? What will your partners be doing? Are you lived experience led? Are you working with volunteers? These are all important things to mention. If you're working with industry experts, it needs to go in this section. Will your beneficiaries be involved in facilitation? Will they be involved in the planning and delivery of your project? This is important to consider. Who would benefit and what positive change or impact will your project bring around? What will we see or feel both during the course of the project and into the future? This is where you talk about how your activities meet the Westfield East Bank outcomes. What are the short, medium, or long-term outcomes of your project? What will funders see or feel? What will participants see or feel? What is the long-term benefit of getting involved or taking part in your project? How will it benefit the participant, the individual, or wider community? You need to be specific here about how many people you think you'll reach and the difference you'll be able to make to them. Base this answer on the funder's outcomes, which you'll see on slide 7. With all of this said, you should use the remaining word count to wrap up with a powerful closing statement. This can be about you, this can be about your enterprise. You just need to finish the application with something convincing. We've got an example here from another application. As someone from a working class Caribbean background who was born and raised in the East End, I'm driven to share the culture that my father and people from my own community passed down to me. By teaching young children how to cook healthily using our passed down cultural recipes, I believe they learn and gain vital life skills and a greater understanding of the cultures and heritages that come before them. It's so important that the cultures representative of our East London communities are kept alive and remembered. You want to reinforce the need for your project here. You might want to reinforce that you are the best person to run your project here. You just need to make sure that the remaining word count is used for something powerful that closes the project overview nicely. Now we go into a project timeline. This is going to be a summary which includes key activities alongside engagement, outreach, workshops, evaluation. This is how we suggest to structure it. Start from the beginning of the program when the funding is confirmed. Include planning time, outreach time, induction time, and mention any training that volunteers or facilitators might need to take part in. Make sure you give the funder a clear idea of what your project is and what it will be doing. If you're running weekly workshops, mention that in the project timeline. Make it clear when project updates will happen and when interim evaluation or final evaluation will happen. Make sure to mention milestones. These are important. They give the funder something to track your project against. Project awareness. How will you make local people aware of your project/activity? Please outline how you have designed your approach to ensure that the project is as accessible as possible for participants, e.g., digital inclusion, marketing, social media, audience engagement, access requirements, safeguarding, and any risk to participants. Really, this question is asking, how will you make sure the people you want to reach know about what you're doing and how they can get involved? How will you make local people aware of your project or activity? Will you advertise on social media? Which social media platforms will you use? What about physical advertising? Will you make posters, flyers? Will you do physical outreach on the street? Will you deliver outreach, taster sessions, or assemblies to local organizations, schools, or community groups? Will you take referrals? Who from? How will these referrals be made? How will you consider any potential accessibility barriers? We've got COVID going on, potentially transport, access requirements, digital inclusion regarding laptops and tech, paid Zoom accounts. How have you implemented safeguarding into the work you do? Are your team trained in safeguarding? Do you have a safeguarding policy and lead? What could go wrong on your program, and what can you do to avoid and mitigate risk? This is the question to talk about that. You want to make it clear how you're going to reach your participants and how you're going to get them involved in the design and delivery of your project. Previous engagement. Tell us about whether you have previously worked with or had engagement with the Foundation or any of our East Bank partners. Provide details of this and any connection you have and why you may have chosen to apply to us to fund your work. Engagement with the Foundation or any Foundation partners is not a prerequisite to applying. They encourage you to think about ways your project might aspire to build those connections longer term. If you have worked with the Foundation in the past, shout about it. Tell them about the impact you've made working with the Foundation or the East Bank partners in the past. Include a quote or two from previous beneficiaries or previous facilitators if you want to. If you haven't, no worries. Now is the time to make that connection. Tell the funders about any plans or ideas you may have of working together now on this project or in the future with other projects. Section 4 consists of some tick box questions. They'll ask which of the funding themes you are going for, any support areas or issues. They'll ask you to select your project outcomes and the potential groups of your project beneficiaries regarding their ethnicity and age. Make sure that what you tick here aligns with what you've put into your application and what you've written about in the previous questions. You'll also be asked for an engagement plan. Before you're asked for the engagement plan, you'll be asked for a simple estimate of the numbers of individuals you're expecting to engage with your project. You'll only be able to give numbers as a response, so use the question engagement plan below to better explain how you'll reach these numbers. The funders have asked you to use this space to provide some further details explaining how you have determined that you will work with the number of beneficiaries estimated above. You've got to be realistic with your engagement estimates and explain specifically how you will do this in the engagement plan. In addition to outlining the number of physical activities you'll host and the number of people involved, consider other avenues of engagement. For example, will you be reaching audiences through social media? Will they tune into your YouTube channel? How many will visit your website? It's important you write these extra beneficiaries into your engagement plan. Section 5 consists of the project budget breakdown. You'll have a table to fill in your expenses on the application. Beneath that table, you'll have a chance to explain your expenditure. The funders are interested to see how your fees, rates, and purchases have been calculated. For example, artist fees, equipment purchases, service venues, and venue hire. The assessors are interested to see how your project supports East London infrastructure through local employment, commissioning, and procurement. This means they want to keep it local. Local facilitators, local partners are going to be preferential over people outside of London or outside of East London. Project income. Here, they want you to detail all project income, both confirmed and expected. You should include any other income that is either confirmed or expected towards the project, including any earned income, other funding applications, match funding, or private income. If you're applying solely to this fund for your project, then provide detail relevant to in-kind contributions. So voluntary time, venue discounts, facilitation time, that kind of thing. Participants will be asked to contribute financially, and if you've received funding from the foundation before. Section 6. This is declaration and submission. Once you've reached this point, it's time to read over everything else, make sure it all aligns, and then finally submit your declaration and your application form. You must read and agree to the stated declaration before submitting your application. I'm authorized to make a proposal on behalf of the above individual, group, or organization. To the best of my knowledge, the information provided in this application form is correct. I have read and understood the guidance notes. I have read and understood the privacy policy above. If a grant is awarded, it will be used exclusively for the purposes described. I am happy for the Foundation for Future London to contact me with details of future opportunities and information. Once you're sure, once you've read everything through and checked it and double checked it again, feel free to submit. Before you submit your application, it's helpful to go through a checklist to make sure you haven't missed anything. Before you submit, check and check again. Make sure you've checked your eligibility. Make sure your activities are aligned with the fund. Make sure your project meets at least one of the funding themes. And match your outcomes against the specific fund outcomes given on slide 7. And make sure you structure your project overview according to the guidance we've given you today. From there, you're ready to submit. You just press submit on the online FlexiGrant portal. This workshop has been hosted as part of a series of capacity building workshops. We'd love to stay connected with you. We'll be hosting sessions for all existing and future potential grantees, giving them the opportunity to develop skills and ideas for present or future projects and funding applications. These sessions will involve guidance and opportunities with other funders and programs, networking events, and business development sessions, such as business planning, marketing, finance, impact measurement, and many more. We've launched our capacity building WhatsApp group chat. So if you'd like to stay connected, just drop your name and phone number into the chat and we'll add you into the WhatsApp group. We look forward to staying connected with you all. That's the end of the application. There's no silly questions, so we'll start our Q&A. Feel free to ask anything. Thank you.